Our guy's going to get it done right now. Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports senior NFL writer, and Bryant McFadden, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Boy, Cincinnati, it wasn't pretty, but they get it done. Why and how does a switch flip like this, B-Mac, where they just really weren't getting it done in the first half and they were unstoppable in the third and fourth quarters were the Bengals?
Well, remember I said during the halftime show, I felt like that last drive, that touchdown saving drive, basically preventing Jacksonville from scoring right before halftime, kind of switched some of the momentum in favor of Cincinnati. And then if you look at how Cincinnati came out on the field after halftime, you saw a different ball club. And then it was huge, being able to take points away from the scoreboard, away from Jacksonville, not allowing them to put on the scoreboard. They were definitely on their heels during that situation, especially in the whole half of play, first half speaking. But being able to get that significant stop, come out of halftime, generate some positive drives. We saw the defense started to play some pretty sound, consistent football as well. And I think that led to this big-time win by Cincinnati. EK, you came up with you mentioned a huge point during the halftime show that Jacksonville has been a bad ball club in the second half. I'm not surprised because when you look at young teams that go into second half, especially with a lead, they don't know how to finish. You got a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback, so many young, inexperienced players on their team. They don't know how to finish just yet, and we saw that once again tonight.
Yeah, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, playing on a short week, first Thursday night game, first nationally televised game, so probably some jitters, body's not feeling great, and they don't have that great of a track record in the final 30 minutes of a game. That's really it. What I saw in the second half of this game is what we saw so often with the Cincinnati Bengals the last 2 years, where it seems like the Bengals with Zach Taylor, I'm not going to sit here and say that they've turned the corner and they're going to make it to the AFC playoffs or anything like that. But this is what the Bengals were doing for a couple of years. They couldn't win close games. They couldn't finish out teams. They were 0-6-1 heading into this season in games decided about 3 points or fewer. That's where we're at right now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You look back at last week where they were up 19-10 against the Arizona Cardinals, and then their final 4 possessions were a pick six, a 3-and-out, a punt, and a punt. Like that's what we're seeing right now from the Jags, and so I'm not at all surprised to see them falter down the stretch. Just like I'm not surprised to see the Bengals, and I can't believe that I'm saying this because the Jonathan Jones from August would smack me upside the head for saying this, but I can believe that the Cincinnati Bengals came back and won this game. And I can believe it because they went out there in week 1 and got the job done. They've been hanging close. They should have beaten the Chicago Bears, and then beating the Steelers like they did last week. They were prepared for this game. They are, I'm not going to say battle-tested, but they've been through this. They are starting to figure out how to win. And when you have guys like Tyler Boyd playing the way he is from the slot, and you have Jamar Chase not even needing to be the leading receiver, not even needing to be the second leading receiver, but that he can fit in where he gets in, and Joe Mixon with an apparent injury there at the end, but that they could still get the job done. I loved what I saw from the Bengals tonight.
All right, JJ, let me follow up on that. Specifically, Joe Burrow in the second half was 17 of 20, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's an 85% completion rate and no turnovers. And the last drive, he did it without Joe Mixon, who was injured and on the sideline. I know he got injured last year. You got to factor that in. I know Justin Herbert has lit the world on fire, got picked behind him. But right now, if you're evaluating Joe Burrow for what he was coming out and what he is now in a season in 3 games, is he ahead of schedule, behind schedule, or on schedule?
I think he's ahead of schedule. I mean, this is a guy who wasn't even comfortable in the pocket with bodies flying around him 2 months ago, as he was still testing out that knee and trusting it and beginning to trust it. He said earlier after the win last week, he said, listen, I made a guy miss while I was in the pocket. That felt good. You could see his confidence build with each passing week. And so now what you have is a Joe Burrow who is one of the most accurate passers in the red zone. What did the Cincinnati Bengals go out there and do in the second half? It was touchdown, 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 field goal to win the football game, right? And so you see that he is surgical there in the red zone. You love it from a Joe Burrow, a guy who I thought that he was going to be a little bit behind schedule going into this season, considering how severe that injury was and everything that he had to work back. And then, an offense under Zach Taylor that I didn't really believe in. But for him to come out and have a 3-1 Bengals team heading into the month of October, kudos to Joe Burrow and his rehab, because he looks like a guy, it's not Justin Herbert, but he looks like a guy who is ahead of schedule right now.
All right, B-Mac, the Cincinnati Bengals win. We all expect him to win. Heck, you picked him at halftime down 14-0. But it wasn't pretty. They didn't look great. Jacksonville played them at least even through this game and dominated the first half. And probably if they got another inch in the first half, would have won the game. They've been up 21-0. I know they're 3-1. But when you woke up this morning versus right now, do you feel better or worse about the Bengals right now than you did this morning, their chances to do damage long-term this season?
I feel better, and the reason why I say that, EK, is because Jonathan talked about what we've seen from Cincy in years past, right? We've seen a team from Cincinnati that can't finish ball games. We've seen a team that might look good one week and then the next week look like a total opposite ball club. And remember what I said in the first half, right? It felt like they were still celebrating the Pittsburgh Steelers win. That game is long gone. Now all your focus and attention needs to be on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it wasn't. And because they had a horrible first half. But I felt like this is a team that started to change the direction of their organization. And because of that, I banged my fist on the table that they would win in the second half, and they were able to do so. Now, how much is that devoted to Cincinnati, and how much is that devoted to Jacksonville just being a bad ball club? I think it's a little bit of both. But I can tell you this much. For Cincinnati to be 3-1 going into the month of October, they're exceeding the expectations. Because I didn't think they would be 3-1 in early August, mid-August.
No, but when you woke up today, you thought when you woke up today, you thought they'd be 3-1 tonight, and you thought they would absolutely handle Jacksonville. They're 3-1, but they didn't handle Jacksonville. But I see your point. You're saying, hey, teams will have a bad first half. I'm actually more impressed that they were resilient in the second half than I'm going to knock them for letting Jacksonville play them fairly even for the 60 minutes. What about you? Do you feel better or worse about Cincinnati's chances to, say, make the playoffs than you did when you woke up today? You expect them to win. They won, but they weren't dominant.
They weren't dominant, but I did like the second half adjustments that they made out there. I liked how the defense finally started to congeal and looked like the defense that we saw for most of the previous 3 weeks. They only allowed 20 offensive plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars there in the second half. Anytime you can do that, it's probably going to be a good day for you. Trey Hendrickson was finally able to get more pressure on Trevor Lawrence. You're not going to see the turnovers, not going to see the big defensive plays. They weren't able to really come up with those. They were able to apply consistent pressure there to Trevor Lawrence and not allow him and the Jags to extend drives. And then on the offensive side, one of the things that we discussed at the halftime show was, hey, there's a lot of 11 personnel out here. One running back, one tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals. I said, I don't really know what their two-back sets are, if they even have those, but maybe get some two tight end sets in there. They did that in the second half, and that bought Joe Burrow a little bit more time there in the pocket where, if we're building on conversations, he's been trying to get more comfortable. And so he had a little bit more time to throw, and when he had more than 2.5 seconds to throw, he went 12 of 17 for 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So that's what the Cincinnati Bengals did at halftime. They decided, here's how we're going to dial up more pressure on Trevor Lawrence and make that rookie uncomfortable. And then on the offensive side, here's how we're going to better protect our quarterback, get CJ Uzomah a little bit more involved as we have. We don't need to rely on Jamar Chase as much as we have throughout the first 3.5 games of the season. Those were the adjustments I saw the Cincinnati Bengals make, and those are what helped them win the game.
All right, JJ, on the other side, can I sell you that I should feel better about Jacksonville than I did 5 minutes before kickoff? And that this is a team that every week they're getting better in the first half. I mean, look, week 1, they had a terrible first half against Houston. Week 2, they played Denver even. Week 3, they were ahead of Arizona at halftime and up 19-10 in the third quarter. Week 4, they're up 14-0 at the half. And even when Cincinnati came back and tied it at 14th, they responded with a touchdown and were ahead in the fourth quarter. Can I sell you that Jacksonville should actually feel better after this game than they did before the game started?
You could sell me on that, and I'd probably buy that. I'm not going to rush to the window and buy that, but I would buy that. You know, after week 1, we wondered if Urban Meyer was going to make it to week 7. We wondered if this was a team that was on pace for potential 0-17 season or a 1-16 season. I mean, right now, they are quite literally on pace to not win any games. That's how on pace works. However, we see them building a little bit. Yes, they did have a second half lead last week against the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, they sort of traded blows there with the Cincinnati Bengals until they just couldn't get the football back. But one thing that Trevor Lawrence talked about this week was, of the 7 interceptions that he has thrown this season, which is tied for a league high, he said that 4 of those were bad decisions. And only 1 of those bad decisions came in the Week 3 loss to the Arizona Cardinals. That, of course, was the flea flicker pick 6. So he was cutting down on his on his mistakes. And what do we see today? A clean sheet for Trevor Lawrence. No interceptions, and so he's building on a short week where he was sore, was able to get out there, get the ball, moving down the field. Obviously, he wants to punch it in there at the goal line there on 4th and goal, and didn't. And that's one that he's going to have to live with. But I do like the trajectory of this Jags team as much as one can like the trajectory of a team that has now lost how many straight?
19.
19.
That's it?
Not good.
Okay.
That's not good. B-Mac, I'm going to finish up with this with you. You played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? That is a team that is the anti-Jaguars. They're the anti-Bengals. They rescue games that are already in the fire as losses. And culture it's an intangible, right? I mean, I don't know why Pittsburgh wins those games, they just do. I don't know why Cincinnati loses those games, they just do. Even when they played in the playoffs, I mean, it was weird. Cincinnati had it won. Pittsburgh's and they just find a way. As a player, how does that change? How long does it take? Has Cincinnati changed it already? Do you need to win a playoff game to change it? Is it a hard thing to change if you're Jacksonville? I mean, talk to me about just that indefinable culture where some teams finish and some teams don't, and some teams give it away and some teams rescue it.
Well, I think for Jacksonville, it's about leadership right now. And they don't have sound, experienced leaders on either side of the ball. You can say the same thing on their coaching staff as well, right? They don't have that one coach who, when he walks into a room, everyone is paying attention, regardless if he's an offensive coach or defensive coach. So they have to find a way to get that in the building, because if they don't, you pretty much have the blind leading the blind in this situation. And because of that, they're having issues finishing the drill. You can win the first half, but it means nothing if you lose the second half. And so far, they've been losing the second half. And you look at their schedule, yeah, they're on pace to not win one ball game. The most realistic matchup they had when you talk about potentially seeing them win was week 1 against Houston. And remember, they lost 37-21. Now you look at what they have coming up on their schedule. Tennessee, who has found their stride. The Miami Dolphins, might have a shot. Seattle, travel to Seattle. Buffalo, the Colts, San Francisco. I mean, you got Atlanta, the Rams, Titans, and then the Texans again. So it's going to be a long, long season, extremely long. But they have to learn as they go. This was a learning experience. Last week was a learning experience. Let's see exactly what they can do next ball game against Tennessee, because they've yet to put together 4 quarters. And if they don't learn how to do that, guys, it's going to be a long time before they win.
All right, well done. Your 3-1 Cincinnati Bengals.
Can you believe it?
We just keep saying it out loud. It's just that, okay.
Joe Burrow says it like he's going to say it going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, we're 3-1. The 3-1 Bengals. 3 wins, just 1 loss in Cincinnati. Hey, why not? Why not us? Why not now if you're the Bengals? All right. Meanwhile, while Cincinnati's giddy and smiling, there you go. Look, and tonight, they're very close to winning. That's the good news. Bad news, this was the only time during this 19-game lose fest that Jacksonville had a 14-point lead. They did. It looked like, all right, we're going to end the streak. They're not ending the streak. 26 is now in their sights. Yuck.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.